I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Outdoor recreation during wintertime in Winona can be a wonderful experience, especially for families. We're fortunate to have quite a few state parks very near us, with winter activities available for all. There is American Perot State Park in Wisconsin, and Latch, Whitewater, and Great River Bluff State Park in Minnesota, all within a 25-mile radius. Today we are fortunate to have the park manager of the Great River Bluff State Park with us to talk about these wintertime activities. This is John Wilsbacher. Hi, John.
Joyce?
I'm fine, and welcome to the Spirit of Winona.
It's nice to be here.
So, John, you are the park manager of the park?
Yes, I've been the park manager since its inception, which is about 25 years now. It opened its doors with full services in the spring of 1977, and I came in January on a very cold day in 1976.
Tell me, where is the park located?
The park is located at the junction of I-90 and Highway 61. It's kind of a triangular park, so I-90 is one leg, 61 is another, and County Road 3 pretty much makes up the other. So it's located right on the scenic Apple Blossom Drive.
How large is the park?
Actually, it's the largest state park in southeastern Minnesota.
Is that right?
We have more acreage than Whitewater. We are about 3,000 acres. However, most of that is on the side hill, so you don't get to see a lot of it, or at least appreciate a lot of it. We have within the park a campground, a 31-site campground with a nice modern shower building. We have a picnic area. We have about 9 miles of ski trail, which I think we'll be talking about shortly. And we have about 6.5 miles of hiking trails, including a 1.5 mile nature trail.
John, tell me about some of those hikes. Do they run along the river, and do they look down into the river valley?
Most of our hiking trails, as well as our ski trails, do go out to overlooks overlooking the river. We have about 8 or 9 overlook points, 5 that are developed, some that are just kind of natural. And that's what people come for. They want to come out, they want to see the river valley, the breathtaking view that you get from 800 feet above the river. So many of ours do that, including our self-guided nature trail, which is about 1.5 miles out onto King's Bluff, one of the 2 major bluffs in the park, King and Queen's Bluff. And from that point, you get a real panoramic view of the Mississippi River Valley. You can see all the way to Trempealeau and our neighboring Perot State Park, as well as a good view of the backside of Queen's Bluff.
Tell me about your wintertime activities at your park.
Well, for the last 5 years, the Friends of Great River Bluff State Park have been sponsoring a Winterfest, and it's on Super Bowl Sunday, and it's also usually tied in with the Winter Carnival.
Our goal is really to raise awareness of the park, not only as a recreational area, and it really is a wonderful recreational area in all seasons of the year, but also to raise people's awareness of the natural resources here. This is really a very special place in the Blufflands. We have a sledding hill that's groomed, and we have volunteers there so that nobody crashes at the end. We have a lot of help on the sledding hill.
What we do is we basically help stop people catch fly sleds, and we help little kids go, and then when we have some spare time, then we just go down the hill.
What Cub Scout group are you from?
We're from Pack 6 at United Methodist Church in Winona.
We're helping out some people sledding out this track so people have a easier time on the sledding down. Like when we are sledding, and this is the sled that I was recently using. I'm gonna keep sledding and keep flattening and just keep having fun. What time is it?
Nice work out, Brady.
Yeah!
Waterfalls are cool.
Yeah.
If you had to sum all of today's events into one word, what word would it be?
Whitewash.
Whitewash, huh? What's whitewash mean?
A big wall of snow on your face.
Is it fun?
Kind of.
Kind of. Is it cold?
Yeah. And wet.
The cross-country trails were just groomed yesterday morning. Those are open all winter long, and people bring their own skis, but today they're especially nice. We have snowshoes that for this particular event, we let people borrow them, and we have Jim Bambanek here to give people some instruction in how to walk in snowshoes. We have a couple of nature hikes during the event, and we have some children's games that the Winona State Environmental Club organizes and leads.
No, I can't draw a lion. I'm not that good. I can do a heart and a clover. That's about it.
You can draw your name.
We have a very diversified landscape here. We have the Richard Dorr Memorial Hardwood Forest represented by the oak hickory. We have 30-some side hill prairies, commonly referred to as goat prairies, that we manage. We have open fields that were once agricultural fields. We have a pine plantation, both red and white pine. We have green ash and walnut plantations that were planted here by forestry prior to this becoming a state park. So we have quite a variety of landscape here. And the old fields, which at one time we weren't too sure what we were going to do with, have been found to house the spring nesting of the Henslow sparrow, which is it's a rare and endangered bird, and this is the only place in Minnesota that it regularly comes back to every year to nest. We get people coming from all over the world that want to see the Henslow sparrow. For years I didn't know what that was, and I'd get people coming from New Zealand and from Austria and England wanting to see the Henslow sparrow until I finally had figured I better find out what this is. Another one is the timber rattlesnake. Now, a lot of people don't like to hear about the timber rattlesnake, but it is also one of the last places in Minnesota where there is a viable population of timber rattlesnakes. And right now we are very much into trying to educate both developers, builders, people who own homes along the bluffs, that this is not a terrible thing to have around, and if you can't live with it, we will help you remove it.
Tell me about other species that you have in the park, maybe that are not endangered but are indigenous to the park?
Well, a lot of people come to the park because they like to see wild turkey. They also see bald eagles and golden eagles. They see a lot of turkey vultures, and this year we were fortunate, although I don't know how often people are going to get a chance to see it because it's really hard to see, but for the first time in about 30 years we had a peregrine falcon nest on Queen's Bluff, and actually had 2 fledglings survive, and that's been real exciting to the bird community. So other things, red fox, coyotes. A lot of people don't like coyotes, and a lot of people have never seen a coyote, and you're not likely to see one, but we have those in the park. A species I've never seen before was a possum until I got to the park. You see those. Plants are probably one of the things that a lot of people come, a lot of wildflowers, especially on our goat prairies, and I call them goat prairies. More correctly, they're side hill prairies, but people call them goat prairies because it takes a mountain goat to climb them. We manage over 30-some side hill prairies in the park, and they're managed just like you would a flatland prairie, and they have tons of wildflowers indigenous to the prairie community, forbs and grasses, and a lot of people come out to enjoy that, and especially because our management efforts are so strong in that area. There are some woodland wildflowers. There's some white lady slippers that are kind of rare, and matter of fact, my son discovered some when he was only about 5 years old, and he's on record of his having discovered them. So there are a lot of flowers, a lot of bird watchers. Typically you cannot pick or take anything from the park unless it's edible. So if you pick apples, which we have a lot of apple trees, or mushrooms, or hickory nuts. Blackberries is a very, very popular thing out at the park. Our campground seems to be situated right in the middle of a big blackberry patch. And so come late August or middle August, we get a lot of people coming out just to pick blackberries. We're also one of the state parks that probably has more unique biological features than any other Minnesota state park. And it's because of these features that we want to retain the low impact character that we are now enjoying.
John, tell me about the history of the park and touch a little bit on how a state park gets designated as a state park.
Well, we have 69 state parks in Minnesota. Our oldest still existing state park, of course, is Itasca, and we celebrated our centennial in 1991 around Itasca State Park. Over the years, many of the state parks were a benefactor of the CCC days in the 30s. But Great River Bluff State Park, or previously Oil Kip State Park, may be more typical of modern type state parks. It's one of the newer state parks. And how that particular park got started was the highway department, or employees of the highway department, lobbied the legislature to have a state park named after Orrin Lansing Kip, O.L. Kip, who was considered father of the highways. He was a deputy commissioner of the Minnesota Highway Department at the time. We changed the name from O.L. Kip State Park to Great River Bluff State Park because we wanted the name to reflect more of the resource that we're managing here. A number of parks throughout the system are named after people who really didn't have anything to do with the park.
And you have a new concept for your vehicle permits?
Yes, I thought it'd be good to talk a little bit about that. This year, for the first time, Minnesota State Parks now are having a 12-month vehicle permit as opposed to what we used to have, a calendar year permit.
What are the hours of the park?
Minnesota State Parks are open basically from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. Now, the office hours are somewhat different. I'm there all by myself during the wintertime, so I'm at the office, which is generally from 8 o'clock till 4:30. Now, I'm the only one there, so I may not be in the office. I may be out and about, or I may be here talking to you.
Do you have a nature center there?
We don't have a nature center at the time, but now we did just acquire some additional land on the entrance road, which is going to now give us the opportunity to put in a brand new visitor center.
Wonderful. Well, John, I'd like to thank you for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
This has been Joyce Woodworth on the Spirit of Winona. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona.